Oh, yes.
In order to get to
We're good.
there, I was, oh, there
Thank
we go.
you. Double check it, but they should work now. Yep. Wait.
All right. We are. Thank you. Thank you, Zach, for our technical help. And good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order the Tuesday, January 7th meeting of the Monmouth City Council and ask Phyllis Bowman, our city recorder, for a roll call, please.
Here.
Here. Present.
Here.
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 I am present. And Councilor Salinas Oliveros, would you lead us in the flag salute, please? Our first item of business this evening is our consent calendar. Included in your packet were the minutes of our meetings of both November 19th and December 4th and December 17th after corrections. And I would entertain any additional corrections or a motion to approve.
I motion to approve the minutes of the dates that you mentioned as written.
I would like to second that.
Thank you, Councilor Salinas Oliveros for the motion and Councilor McKeel for the second. Any additional changes or comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
And hearing none opposed, that will take us to public comment. This evening, we do have time reserved for items not on the agenda. Time limit to 3 minutes, and we do have a comment. Councilor Carey, can you operate the timer?
Yeah. Huh? Check it out.
It's getting very good. And so, Mary, could you please join us up at the table for public comment? Yeah, that's okay. And we'll have you come on up and push the button on the microphone. Red means on.
It's on.
And please state your name and your area of residence.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Mary Tharp, and I live on Fishback Road out of town. I am a walker every day. I like to get out and walk, and I don't walk out where I live because they're driving so fast. So I come into town to walk, and I walk your college. My issue is I can never find a place to park. And I'll tell you why. You have a posted 2-hour limit by the park that you do not hold students accountable. They are there all day. And I took a picture today. It's full. It is full on the other side of the park as well, and it's full on the side of the road by where the restrooms are. It's just full. I wanted to go to Maps. I couldn't even park there either. My concern is we're allowing these young people to not be held accountable for a law that you have a posted sign for. And I've dealt with this last year and went to the police, talked to the police. I got the comment, we don't have anybody that can do that. Well, then don't post it. Either take the signs down or hold these people accountable. Across the street from where they're parking is a parking lot that students can pay for. It was empty today. And I know the college brings in money, but I'm a taxpayer. And I can't park to go to the park, our city park, and that's disturbing me. So I'm bringing it up again, and I'll probably bring it up again next year if it's still not dealt with. But I think you need to deal with this. We're allowing them to break the law, and it bothers me.
Okay, thank you very much, Will. We didn't get any contact information for you, Mary, if you want to add an email address or phone number to your. Oh, but so you'd like us to write you a letter when we. Okay, we'll do that. Thank you. All right, Phyllis, were there any additional comments submitted prior to the meeting?
There were not, Mayor Coons.
And none online? At this time, we have a special presentation to make. Sadly, 4 years seems to have gone by very quickly, but tonight we do say farewell to one of our counselors. So Counselor Salinas Oliveros, if you and I can meet out there, and we'll meet by the microphone. Now what I do? Just a minute. We created technical difficulties apparently. Well, Rebecca. Thank you so much for your service to this council and this community. I know that service didn't start the night you were sworn into council, and I know it will not end. So, but here tonight, we are here to appreciate Rebecca Salinas Oliveros, City Council 2021 to 2024, in recognition of your hard work, wisdom, and countless contributions rendered while serving as a Monmouth City Councilor. Thank you for your dedication to the citizens and residents of Monmouth, from the mayor and city staff.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all the support, all the learning, just all the guidance I received throughout 4 years. I so appreciate the staff. I'm going to miss them so much, but I'm really grateful so much from the city, and just we're so fortunate to have our city, and that's something that I really want everyone to just keep in mind. We have really great people here, and thank you to the council. You know, you're all just really good people. You're not just city councilors. You're, you know, your friends, your peers, and you're just. We care about each other, and I appreciate that, and we respect each other. When we were on council, and still do, and that's something that I hope continues, because I think we can learn so much from it. So I wish you the best. Keep doing the good work that you're doing. I know you will. And just thank you for everything that you've done and you keep doing.
All right, Phyllis, ready to make the switch-o, change-o.
Okay, stand in front. Okay, just stand, moves back a little bit. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution
Of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon,
the Charter and ordinances
the Charter and ordinances
of the City of Monmouth, and that I will
and that I
well
will and
perform the duties
perform the duties
of Mayor of the City of Monmouth to the best of my ability. All right, congratulations. Use this one instead. Okay. Okay. All right. Need Jason, John, and Carol. Okay, we'll do all three of you at once. So your right hand and I say your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution and laws of Oregon, the Charter and ordinances of the City of Monmouth. I will, well and faithfully, perform the duties of City Councilor of the City of Monmouth. So help me God. Congratulations.
All right, we'll have a second here while we get Counselor Ridgway settled in. All right, now that we've got all the paperwork going up here, I think we'll give Counselor Ridgway a second to get logged in. And an order of business that we also need to take care of, typically every 2 years when we have a new council sworn in, is the election of a council president. Council president is someone who serves in the event the mayor is unavailable, but also represents the city in a variety of other ways, and is someone who can often give extra guidance. It supports the mayor in collaborating with the council to do the evaluation of the city manager, for example. That is one of our legal duties, and the council president assists with compilation of that typically. So that is the official role of the council president, considered someone who is often good advisor and someone who the city manager can discuss things with in the event the mayor is not available. So at this time, I'm going to ask if anyone would like to nominate themselves to serve as our council president.
I would like to nominate John Kerry to serve as council president, whether he wants to or not.
I will second that, whether he wants to or not.
Yeah.
Councilor Carey, you accept the nomination? Was anyone else interested in the position? All right, all in favor of having John Kerry as our council president, please signify by saying aye.
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 And seeing none opposed, thank you, John. I appreciate again your willingness to serve, and as a senior member of this council, it's definitely appreciated the wisdom and experience you bring to this. So thank you very much. And that brings us to our first item on the business agenda, which was a discussion that we've had sort of how we would use this room and make it available to the public. So in your packet was a discussion of approval of the City Hall room rental policy. And who's staff on this? And Rochelle Rudin, our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So on October 15th, staff presented a draft public use plan to allow the community to rent City Hall facilities, which would include the council chambers, the executive meeting room, and to hold meetings and events. The attached policy that you have in your packet reflects changes requested by the council at that time, and what that included was the removal of some boilerplate language in section 1. Also, audio-visual equipment rental availability. That was one service the council wanted to be able to offer to renters, and so staff has purchased a meeting owl, which will be connected to the roving monitor and a laptop. So that will not conflict with our internal network or have any security issues, but they'll be able to run their own meetings if they use the space for that. So we've updated what the policy that we had brought to you with those changes. Also, we added a $50 fee for the AV equipment. That will help set it up. That will help train them. I tried to get comparables from around the area, but most places don't rent it specifically. It's either part of the rental or they don't provide it at all, like the fairgrounds do not provide it. So we are asking if you would be willing to approve the use plan. And also we added a resolution 2002, which adopts the fees for the room rental.
Any questions or discussion? Councillor Carey, then Councillor Ober.
This reflects what we talked about earlier. I would just suggest that, and it may only be in the formatting right now, but you know, we've got sort of split between the costs of the meeting room rental fees, split over 2 pages, and there's a header there. So if this were to be moved directly, it would be confusing. I think it confused me initially. Figured it out over time. Now, does this reflect changes in other fees, or is it just it is just the single issue of the adding the room fee?
So it was adding the room fee and then also the monitor fee, which
Yes,
is $25. But we did discuss that at the prior meeting. I'm not sure if it was in the fee schedule or not. So we did add that.
Yeah, good. The only thought that I had is, and it may be on the form, on the rental form, but you know, audio-visual fees, $50 per event. It may or may not be necessary to say if used.
Okay.
I mean, I think, again, if it's just a check that's left undone on the agreement, probably not. But if I wouldn't want somebody to think they're going to be charged that just for reserving the room.
I understand. We'll
Yeah.
make that correction.
Good, thank you.
Councillor Obers?
I just wanted to comment that one of the goals for this facility, and particularly this space and the patio out front, was for alternative uses to what we're doing now in court, and getting the public in here to use their city hall and their front patio. So this is a really nice step in that direction to finally, define exactly how that works. So good job. Thank you.
Alrighty, there is a motion in your packet.
Schedule.
I'll second that. Oh, I will give that to Counselor Bells.
Thank you, Counselor Obers, for the motion. We couldn't hear, but and
Shall I do it again? I realized that I had turned my mic.
why don't you? We're testing the loop system, and
Okay,
so it's
so-
helpful to hear.
I move to approve the City Hall Public Use Plan and adopt Resolution 2002, a resolution adopting a fees and charges schedule.
And for the record, I will second.
Thank you, Counselor Obers, for the motion, and Counselor Belts for the second. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Great, this is an ordinance, so Phyllis will get an opportunity to do the roll.
Okay. Counselor McKeel,
Yes.
Counselor Lopez,
Aye.
Counselor Oberst,
Yes.
Counselor Belts,
Yes.
Counselor, who did I miss? Sorry. Carrie,
Yes.
Counselor Ridgway.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. And that takes us then to our work session this evening. And I see our Public Works Director, Russ Cooper, coming forward. Looks like we have some exciting discussion regarding illicit discharge.
I hope you're serious about that.
You know, we are always interested in how wastewater and stormwater and discharge works on this council.
Yeah, the term really gets your attention. Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. Yes, I do have a draft ordinance, stormwater illicit discharge for your review and comment tonight. If you recall, back in December, Public Works provided an update on activities related to stormwater in our TMDL plan, and one of our goals for this year is the adoption of an ordinance, at least similar to the one that's included in here, that has a couple of purposes. I'll just hit some highlights of the ordinance and then allow for questions and clarifications if needed, and then go from there. So the primary purposes of this ordinance is to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of residents of the city of Monmouth through the regulation of non-stormwater discharges to the storm drain system and our local waterways. And it also establishes methods for controlling the introduction of pollutants into the storm drain system. The objective, it's basically three parts: regulate the contribution of pollutants to the storm drain system, prohibit illicit connections to the system, and then establish legal authority for the city to carry out inspections, surveillance, and monitoring of activities that could introduce pollutants into the stormwater system. Illegal discharge is pretty much anything that is non-stormwater being introduced into the storm drain system. And then illicit connections can be a drain or a conveyance where which allows for an illegal discharge to occur into the storm drain system. That can be a pipe, it can be run over, the surface of the ground, it can be subsurface, so on. And then it also could be this is primarily related to industrial properties where there are connections, whether existing or new, to the storm drain system that the city is not aware of, did not permit, doesn't have a way to have reviewed it previously to know, or even if it was a previous one but doesn't meet current standards. So those are your illicit connections. Section 1354 goes on to further define that the ordinance applies to all water and all other fluids, substances, materials entering the storm drain system generated on any developed or undeveloped lot or parcel of real property within the city of Monmouth. So that gives us the ability to monitor that. Section 1362 provides you a list of prohibited illegal discharges. Section 1364 is a list of allowable non-stormwater discharges. Typical or common ones that you might think about would be irrigation runoff, residential car washing, the city's hydrant flushing, firefighter activity. Those are allowable non-stormwater discharges. Section 1374, monitoring of discharges. This provides the city authority to monitor, but also to request entry onto property for that purpose. Where this comes in oftentimes is on a construction project where you might think we have access to it at all times, but there's sometimes private property. And so we'll request access. If it's denied, this ordinance allows for a process by which we can gain that access to monitor. Section 1376 is a section related to industrial properties and their need to establish, or at the request of the city, establish best management plans. It's typically in a form of a written document that outlines how, with their particular operation, what steps they're going to take to, the way I look at it, put barriers in between their pollution or their operations and the storm drain system. Moving further on, section 1384, enforcement. In the event that there is either, in the event that there is a perceived violation and the city makes contact, this section outlines some of that process and describes a formal notice of violation and enforcement that would come in a written form from the city manager or their designee. In that section, subsection 3, duty to follow an enforcement plan. The city has a requirement to follow a plan of enforcement. What does that look like? And attachment B to your staff report is the city's current written enforcement plan. And it's pretty simple, but it's a 4-step plan that first results in a verbal warning, trying to provide public education, change behavior through that point, informing the persons that are involved in the issue of what steps they can take to assist in protecting the city's storm drain system. Next would be a written enforcement, or a written, I should go to the plan before I just try to, a written warning, and that will state what the corrections are needed and specify the time frame for those. This represents pretty much the first written form of enforcement action. And then step 3 is that written notice of violation. And that definitely is taking a step up where it's issued usually to repeat offenders, intentional dumping or dumping of hazardous substances. The violations will be clearly stated and the required remedial actions are identified in that written as well as the schedule to compliance. It'll also include what the penalties either are or will be for noncompliance. And if the issue persists, we'll issue a stop work order at that time. And then step 4 is more of an internal notification process to ensure that myself, city manager, are aware of what's going on. They'll know that this is all going on before we actually issue the written notice of the violation. And then the violations themselves, that's the listing of the financial penalties and what those trigger points are. And that's section 1388. So I'm interested to get feedback, make sure that council is comfortable with this, that it represents their point of view with the city. If you are, we'll bring it back to you at your next meeting for a first reading. And then, go ahead.
Madam Mayor and Council, just so you have a little bit of history on this, the first sentence of the background on the first page of the Russell staff report says that the state is requiring an ordinance. And in fact, the state has developed a model ordinance on which this is based. You're the beneficiaries of about 9 months of work that I did on this in Dallas with Elizabeth Sagamiller, who is the premier consultant on stormwater issues for the state. We pushed back. There were several awful formatting issues and just drafting issues with the state model ordinance. And it really did take about 9 months, but DEQ approved this. So the state has signed off on this form of ordinance. It's kind of a safe harbor for you. And I would say that in terms of, is it a big step or is it a big step or is it a small step? This is about a really modest ordinance in terms of the range that the state would allow. You can go further than this, but you really can't go much less than this in terms of regulation. This is about the minimum safe harbor. And so just to say, it's a little frustrating because it is one of these thou shalt kind of situations. But this ordinance has been approved, we know, by DEQ, has been approved with our consultant in Dallas, and it is word for word the same except for the references to the city.
And I guess I'll add the other, I think, benefit to contractors, business owners that may have businesses in multiple jurisdictions is that they're going to be expected to address these things in the same way.
So this is the new model ordinance, in other words, since, Lane wrote it. Right?
Yeah, that's true. I would say that.
Rewrote it.
It is the improved model ordinance.
I'm sure DEQ is passing it out right now to cities that want to go on the moderate end of enforcement. So, all right, questions or comments? Councilor McKeel and Councilor Ober.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And I guess my question is answered if this is the model format, except I was wondering why it's such a protracted step of getting to the fines. So if you get a verbal warning and a written warning and a written notice of violation, and then after you hit, it's like the 4th step, you would get a fine? Is that the way it would work?
The fine can actually occur pretty early on if it deals with a hazardous substance or in a real intentional dumping of a pollutant. And then the written enforcement, which is the third step, is You're right. That is when a violation typically could be included in that letter or would be included in that letter.
So how easy is it to show intentional polluting? Because I can see people going, oh, I didn't know. Oh, I didn't know it was still dribbling. Oh, is it really still dribbling? So, I mean, you get my meaning.
Sure. And you're right. That there is a challenge with that. We'll approach each one, I guess, as they come. We'll try to be really consistent in our methodology of how we do it. And that's partly why we've got the enforcement plan set up the way it is. The verbal warning and the written warning may actually be the same thing if the offense is serious enough, if the action is serious enough. The idea is not going straight to a written warning on something that just a regular citizen homeowner may not be aware that, washing their lawnmower out over the storm drain right into the catch basin, that would be something that we wouldn't want them to do. So we would want to use that as an opportunity for public education and not jump into something that can be perceived as more aggressive than education.
Yeah, if I can, you'll note that in section 1384, it says when Monmouth finds that a person has violated, the city manager may order compliance. This really is a process of sort of leading people to compliance. That's the effort of 1384, and it presumes that somebody is willing to comply with an improvement plan. You do also have section 1388, though. Again, section 84 is a may. Section 1388 does give the authority of the city to impose a violation on a first offense. It's a discretionary approach to enforcement, but the idea certainly behind the model ordinance and what was adopted in Dallas was to include this process in 1384 that really is intended to be more educational and to bring people along without having to go straight to a penalty. But it's there in the right case.
And I do like that you start with the verbal warning, because I would probably be one of those people going, I didn't know when I'm doing something incorrectly. But I'm wondering if there's, if looking at going back to the 1388 and then the sequence of the fines, if there's a first offense and a second offense and the third offense, can't we just say there's an additional penalty on the third? I mean, that's like, why would somebody have a third offense on pollution and take that item 3, there shall be an additional penalty if the discharge is fully or partially intentional. By the time you get to the third offense, I used to teach second grade, and we would never get to 3. So without a letter to mom and dad.
Sure.
And so looking at the third one, how is there not intentionality? And wouldn't that just shouldn't it just be if there's a $1,200 offense? If that makes sense, unless I was a very strict second grade
It makes
teacher.
very good sense. And I would be on the phone with Lane, just checking with kind of that process to make sure. But the way I read 88, if the offense is a third offense within a short period of time, it's the same offense, then I would think that upping and adding the additional penalty could be implemented.
And if I could notice, those are per day. So that's going to get somebody's attention. If you're charging them $350 per day, that will ratchet up quickly, or $500 a day. And if it's hazardous materials as defined in here, there's an additional $200 penalty. So these are actually potentially pretty substantial fiscal penalties.
So I just have one more, thank you. Back to the response process description, I'm wondering if, and I'm not sure what goes out to the public and letting them know, But if it's possible that in step 2, they could be issued a fine along with the written warning, that might be something that needs to be included there so that people know that they don't get the step 4, that if it's serious enough, they could have a penalty in step 2 or 3. Does that make sense? Right. I mean, yeah, and I don't know if this is the document that they would be, people get. When they get the verbal warning, it's almost like they need a document that says, if I have to come back here and give a written warning, there's a possibility that you'll also get a fine and what those fines will be.
Yeah, section 1384 describes what would be included in the written warning or notice of violation. And I believe, depending on the intentionality and the severity of the incident, that we could begin at step 3, the written notice of enforcement.
Oh, okay. Is there some place though that somebody would know that this is how it could escalate with, like at the, I read through this, but I might not have read through it as carefully as I needed to know that if I do something, I should know that at the verbal warning, the next time you come out, I could be issued a written warning that could accompany a fine. And I didn't have that sense reading the material, but maybe I missed it, so.
The ordinance itself, if somebody is, checking on, how far can I go with illegal behavior? The ordinance itself says that $350 per day for the first offense. I mean, the ordinance
Oh, that would be that.
allows
Okay.
our own kind of response plan, which is the approach that we want to take, outlines those steps, but,
Okay.
which is outside of the ordinance. And the response plan, we'll review that on an annual basis. And we may discover that we want to change the language as we kind of live and breathe this document and experience it real time.
Okay, well, and nice job. I mean, thank you for all this work. This is really nicely done. So thank you.
Yeah, and for me, hats off to Dallas because I didn't have to go through that process.
Yeah. We put that in the minutes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Oberst and then Counselor Ridgway.
So you mentioned illicit connections, and you said if an illicit connection is discharging something it shouldn't, what if it's an illicit connection that's just real plain old stormwater? Do we allow illicit connections as long as they're not polluting? Or is that, because I'm referring to the way you stated it, and I want to be clear that illicit is illicit.
Yeah, I think well, I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to, but in the code, it kind of identifies two. One is a connection that, I'm going to go to that just a second here.
Sorry, Russ.
In the definitions. So the first one is any drain or conveyance, whether surface, subsurface, which allows, including but not limited to any sewage, processed water, wash water, so the first connection is one that is putting something that
Right,
shouldn't be in
right.
there. The other one is on industrial, is more related to industrial property that we don't know about. And what this allows us to do is identify it as something that we want to know more about.
Okay.
And that allows us to dig deeper into it. We don't have any documentation about it. We may decide that it needs to be disconnected if for, and I'm not sure what those reasons would be. but that connection needs to
Okay.
go away. Or it may be that we need to require some preventative best management practices
Okay,
that
got it.
surround it, that help to protect
Okay.
us. So
And then the only other one, I would echo Carol's comment around intentionality, that's sometimes hard to prove, I think. And, particularly on a first go, I didn't know that. A second go, I would start to say, yeah, we talked to you about that once already. I think you're doing this on purpose, and certainly by the third one.
Yeah. That's just a factual issue that would have to be fleshed out in any enforcement action.
Right. Okay. Very good.
Fleshed out. Counselor Ridgway?
I'm just looking for a little education on this. So there, two parts. One, can you speak to history of these types of violations, how frequent they occur, what the, what the impact has been? And then secondly, most of this is talking about the second part of the process, the what to do if. How does the city detect and investigate potential violations?
So the first one is kind of the frequency. How often do we experience this? So most of what we experience is the kind of violation that just a verbal conversation, a verbal warning, public education, that addresses probably 95% of the issues that we experience. And throughout the year, couple times a month, maybe. During the winter, it may be more. During, different types of violations throughout the year. So I would say a couple times a month we either see it or engage with it. The more severe is much less frequently, and the examples that I can just kind of think about, we would probably start out with the written warning, and the conversation would go together, because they would be an action that somebody's dumping motor oil or antifreeze or something that is a pollutant directly into the system. And so we would want to get there pretty quickly. That, I would say, I'm just thinking, half dozen times a year we encounter an offense like that. A point where we would need to do a fine and enforcement, less than one time a year. I mean, those are far enough apart. We usually are able to get compliance through having the conversation or the threat of a stop work order. That's what we've used in the past. We have a process now that will help us implement, and without this, we've had less of a hammer in the past. We've been more dependent upon state language and threats of DEQ instead of our own ordinance. The second part of that, remind me what your second question was.
So detection and investigation. So are these initiated by a complaint from neighbors in the community? Are they your staff coming across them?
I would say that it is close to equal in third party complaints making us aware, and our own staff out and about in the city observing.
Counselor Lopez and Counselor Bell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question about the allowable non-stormwater discharges. This is section 13.64, page 40 of our packet, page 7 of the ordinance. Item 16, charity car washing. provided that chemicals, soaps, detergent, steam, or heated water are not used. So charity car washing is allowed, provided that they only use buckets full of cold water. Could you speak maybe a little bit to best practices and how this could, could impact our Central High School fundraisers?
They mostly happen in Independence. They're almost 100% at Les Schwab, so not our problem, Counselor Lopez.
Point taken.
So when Lane sends the model ordinance to Independence, they can deal with the car wash. But yeah,
I
no,
would
it's
say
a good-
this language does come out of the model ordinance. That was pretty much verbatim from the DEQ model ordinance. I guess Russ can speak to it better. I think the idea is, you'll notice that up above, just private car washing is just categorically permitted. I think the idea probably is that charity car washing would have greater impact, more going on. So more soap, you're using hot water, hot water going into the stormwater system, and I'm guessing Russ would say that that's not a good thing. So I think it's probably just because charity car washing is a larger scope. And so it's allowed, but it's going to be allowed under these pretty limited circumstances. And again, I would say that is, I think, verbatim out of the model DEQ code.
Yeah, I would also add that this allows us an opportunity to make contact in a public education type of mode in order to bring awareness to the protection of the stormwater, that what you put down that drain eventually ends up in your local waterways, and use it as much as an opportunity for public education.
A follow-up question, are there any washing agents that would be permissible, right? I mean, this seems fairly comprehensive, suggesting that nothing is permissible. I recognize that our community wants to protect our water sources, wants to protect our public assets. As someone who spends a good amount of time in Oregon streams, I do as well. I'm also want to ensure that we balance this with, supporting our local communities and local institutions. And when I think about specifically charitable car washing, as something that we're making essentially, very difficult or non-existent, because I'm not sure how many people would line up to have their cars squirted off with a hose and nothing else. Is there anything that we could write in that kind of checks all the boxes, that is friendly to the environment, but it allows for that car washing event to still occur? It's not just a squirt down. I don't know. Maybe there's not.
I don't know what that is. I mean, my answer would be what you started off with, is cold water and lots of elbow grease. But yeah.
If I may, I think this question came up in one of our meetings with Ms. Sagamiller, and her response reflecting DEQ's basically is that if it's hot water, if it's detergents, if it's chemicals, it's having the same impact on your stormwater, whether it's coming in from the bad industrial landowner or the well-intentioned charity organization that's doing the car wash. The impact on the stormwater and the water is the same.
I would suggest the impact is not directly analogous, because charity car washes are not permanent fixtures and locations, and charity car washes are periodical, oftentimes replacing that car washing that people would do in their own driveways anyway. That being said, we don't have them in the room to argue with. If this has to stay, I'll still vote for it, but I would appreciate if there is anything we could look into. And also, I'm noticing that there's a couple parentheses missing.
Yeah, I think if it becomes an issue, then, and there is an appeals process, right, in this, that it might eventually come to us, but I, again, don't know that we'll have this issue. I'm going to go to Counselor Belts and Counselor Ober.
Thank you. I do believe one of the questions that Councilor Ridgway had asked about was community education and the car wash idea. I mean, that again, how would a bunch of high school students even know that this was a rule? And I will out myself as that our general contractor did a violation and we were informed about it very, very quickly. And luckily we were able to remediate it. But we as homeowners didn't know that this was even an issue, didn't know it happened. And of course, one would hope people would be smart enough to know, don't put junk down the drain. However, how are we going to educate people really well? Social media, newsletter, how are we going to do this?
It's a great question. I appreciate that. So in the presentation in early December about our TMDL program, we mentioned that we have a rare intern who Gabby's primary focus right now is developing some public education material for us. So we'll, and this education is already going on in media and we're not the only one that is going to be educating folks, but Monmouth, we definitely recognize that we can up our game, we can get some better material, we can spread it further and wider and do a better job of getting that information out there. And that's one of our goals this year is to improve that. And it will be a goal that actually is kind of an ongoing goal that we want to improve, review, bring that information, current. If there, to Councilor Lopez's question about, is there a safe soap? If that comes out, sure, we want to do our part to help bring awareness to best management practices or changes in the industry. So.
Councilor Obert?
Lane, I just have to echo something from Chris, and that is, you have your consultant saying a car wash is the same as an industrial polluter and that it's a point source of a lot of stuff all at once. But what's the difference between a point source all at once or everybody going home and washing their car in the driveway? And, so that's the counterpoint that I would make to the state and anybody else.
Yeah, I'm not making the argument. That was the argument.
No, yeah, I
There was discussion
understand.
about
I
this.
understand.
I totally appreciate that. Although I would say, if you look up at the language leading into that, these are, let's see. These don't apply, provided if any of the following allowable stormwater discharges are or become significant sources of pollutants. So some of these are, even though they're permitted, if they become through common use, I don't expect this to happen because people aren't going to all of a sudden to go out and start washing their cars with a lot of soap in the driveways. But it is possible that even these allowed ones could become prohibited if the preponderance of them were such that they were having a detrimental impact on the stormwater system.
And I think there are biodegradable soaps out there that might be worth looking into. Again, this would require, I guess, the state to rule on what's allowable by brand name probably. So they may not want to get into that.
And maybe our internal finds some of those as part of the education. Councilor Carey, then Councilor McKee.
To Lane's last point about becoming a problem, I wonder if, and there certainly are biodegradable soaps that are acceptable in a variety of different uses. And specific to item 16, the one that Councilor Lopez brought up, the charity car wash, if they're using warm water in a bucket and the catch basin is 50 feet away, that water is going to be, the same temperature as the pavement by the time it gets there. And by the time it impacts, what's really important to impact is once it gets into the stream, it'll be negligible. So I think that there could be ways that, in terms of the education, it might be that biodegradable soaps of such and such, whatever the threshold is, it might be that, any use of hot water needs to be X number of feet from a catch basin. There could be some solutions for something like that. And the reason I'm focusing in on that, this is a good document and it's well thought out. And I was relieved as I read through it because I was alarmed on our November meeting. But this is the type that people will latch on to and will use that as a criticism of the entire document. And so if there's a way that we can mitigate some of those, because they didn't have the conversation, but if there's a way that some of those could be mitigated locally, if they become a problem, I think we'd be way ahead.
If I can respond to that, it occurs to me what we could do. I'd certainly be willing to try it. I don't think it would be a problem. If you were to change 16 to say, charity car washing provided the chemicals, soaps, detergents, and steam are not used, and that heated water is not permitted to enter the stormwater system. So that's kind of gets to your point. If you're far enough away, we could do it that way. That would be an easy modification of that language that still seems to get to the point. Yeah. I could do that when we bring this back as an ordinance.
And just sort of to follow up and you know, I started making a list of all the things that I was concerned about. And then I got down to, 1364, where it starts talking about things that are permitted. And I started crossing off the things that I was concerned with, which I was glad about. The one thing that I didn't quite know, if you treat your driveway, for argument's sake, with a moss killer of some sort, it's a base of some type, and then you wash that off, you're certainly introducing a pollutant. And that's a pretty common way of treating, in Oregon, under oak trees, treating moss. I don't know whether there's anything we can do on that. That would need to be an educational piece, but something that ought to be called out in my mind. And I'm also a little bit concerned about hosing dirt off, that kind of thing. That is a silt. That's one of those that's going to be hard, going to be easy to pick on. But a good job, and there's been a lot of discussion on the enforcement piece and the enforcement strategy. I think that's good. I think it assumes the best of people, but it allows you guys to identify the real bad guys and go get them, but not nail John down on 719 High Street or washing some moss be gone into the gutter. Anyway, nicely done. Thank you.
Counselor McKeel.
It was nice of you not to say Carol McKeel with the bus.
You too.
Yeah. So I actually, and I don't know if this is something that you want to do, but on the discharge incident tracking sheet on page 6 or page 54, I don't know if the incident date is the date that the city found out about the problem. I think it'd be a nice way of tracking at how quickly the city addresses these issues. So I don't know, date notified or informed might be a nice one to add to that, because again, it tracks it, how quickly it's addressed. And then just below address, it's downstream outfall if available, hashtag : or is that, should the pound sign ? Is there a meaning for that, or? Oh, okay. I looked like it was maybe kind of a text thing. No, just kidding. I'm thinking you could put also towels at those, charity car washes. You have to have 15 towels between you. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah. Bring
Yeah,
brooms.
but I think the date notified gives us some bragging rights bragging rights for taking care of stuff. So.
All right. Any other guidance before we get an ordinance that looks a lot like this, which still gives you opportunities to make changes? Counselor Shetterly.
Yeah, just I will offer the same amendment to sections 20 and 21 as I did to the charity car washes. Again, we'll address heated water as not being permitted to enter the stormwater system. Yeah.
Any others? All right. Do you know what to bring back to us?
I do. Thank you. And good conversation. I appreciate it. And, I hear it's important to approach each of these in a case by case, that what our goal is education. But there are certainly times that for the health and welfare of our environment and our local waterways, we need to take, quick, decisive action and be consistent in that. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Russ. That brings us to our reports this evening. And my first item of business, again, with a new council, I like to, every couple of years, give everyone an opportunity to work with different boards and commissions. And you should have received a list that I made available, taking into account people's schedules and interests. So our standing committees then would be the Arts and Culture Commission, Roxanne Belts, Historic Commission, Carol McKeel, the Library Board. The morning session goes to Councilor Lopez. And Parks and Rec, Jason has offered to take that on, so I appreciate that. Councilor Carey offered to continue on planning, and I think we all genuinely appreciate that. Senior Advisory Board, our Councilor Oberst, that's one you haven't.
I have never. So there you go. I'm going to learn a bunch of new stuff this time around.
And because we know you are the cook in your family, you can carry on the tradition. In their December meeting, the council liaison brings lunch.
Well, all right then. I sense a couple of different kinds of soup coming up.
Just saying. Councilor McKeel has offered to take on the new Transportation Commission, again, as a former member of our Bike Ped Committee. And now that mission is folded in, we appreciate that. Because he was such an enthusiastic supporter, Councilor Oberst is also going back to the tree board. As one other councilor pointed out, it didn't used to be a full, but he got a whole bunch of people to join it, so we want to keep him in charge of it. So,
and it's a lot of fun planting trees. I got to say, it's one of the boards where you get out and really be active in the activities of the board. So I appreciate you putting me back there. I enjoy those folks.
Great, thank you. I will continue as the liaison to the MyNet board, and Councilor Lopez, our councilor liaison to the Mid-Valley Homeless Alliance. Councilor Belts is not only representing us at the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, but she's the incoming chair of that organization. So we appreciate that. She currently also represents us on SEDCOR, but her term is up in June. That is not something that requires our representation. But Councilor Lopez, I thought perhaps you and I might be interested, one of us, in picking that up and offering ourselves as a potential board member for the Strategic Area Economic Development Organization. Great. So we'll talk about that as we get up there. And that brings us to reports of boards and commissions. And it was the holidays. I'm not sure anybody met. Any reports from the former outgoing liaison, Councilor Ober?
I have to confess that for the first time, I was unable to attend the tree board meeting in December. However, there will be a January meeting before our next council meeting, so I will give you a double-barreled report at that point. This is the beginnings of the stirrings of what are we going to do for a spring tree planting this year. So.
Great. And I think we did get our Arbor Day application in on time. I mean, our Tree City USA application in at kind of last minute because I had to sign something I did quickly. So hopefully we'll be well celebrating that again. Anyone else? Councilor Carey.
I would just note that over the holiday and over the month of December, Planning Commission lost Scott Campbell. I was not here and I didn't get to add my comments, but he was really a thoughtful, valuable member of that group and thought in a wide variety of ways that reflected his experiences. So I appreciate you indicating that, but I wanted to be able to circle back and provide my own thoughts and sadness over losing him.
Yeah, thank you. And we will be getting out an announcement about that opening very soon, and hopefully getting someone also of that caliber. Although Planning Commission is one of those that you sit through a lot of meetings before you can really, really be super effective. So we'll be working towards that. Seeing no others, that takes us to Rochelle Roden, our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So for my report, the first thing I'd like to report on is the homeless shelter application process. The 14-day public written comment period ended on December 30th. We received 36 written responses from the residents, and everything is currently under staff review at this time. I wanted to remind the council that per your request, we will bring all of those written responses back to you in a work session situation so that you can see all of that information. On the Regional Water Treatment Plan project, staff met with representatives from the county and with the City of Independence to start negotiating the IGA for Phase 1, which is the feasibility study and the initial design. Independence put in for an EDA grant, of which they were awarded $440,000 for the regional project. So that will be split across the 3 entities. And so that takes our initial cost for Phase 1 from approximately $190,000 down to about $50,000 per for the county, for Monmouth, and for Independence, which is fantastic. So we have another meeting scheduled later this month, and I will keep you updated on that. January 20th will be the MLK Day of Service. That'll be from 9 to noon. Suzanne Duffner is coordinating the volunteers and working with Western Oregon University to have students come along and help. If you are interested in volunteering, or if you know of someone who needs some assistance, please let Suzanne know and we can get them added to the list. Economic opportunities analysis open houses are coming up. The in-person open house is January 14th at 5:30 p.m. here at Council Chambers. There will be the following week a virtual open house, which will be January 22nd at 5:30 p.m. So leaf pickup season has ended, and Russ gave us an update at our management meeting today. It's pretty fantastic stuff, so I have to tell you that 1,367,000 pounds of leaves were picked up.
Wow.
In the 2 months. This was with 176 dump truck loads. And this is actually 21 more dump truck loads than last year and 83 more tons of leaves than last year. So the 1,367,000 pounds equates to 683 tons. Isn't that amazing? I think so. That's what we were saying. It must be the tree board planting all these trees. Anyway, Public Works.
It also probably reflects the equipment working the entire season this year. Oh,
I'm sorry. 176. Yeah, amazing. Polk County FCO has an event called Community Connect. It is scheduled for January 25th from 10 to 3 at the Polk County Fairgrounds. They contacted us and asked about partnering to provide transportation for folks. So we're going to pull, the 3 trolleys are back running. So we're going to be able to pull 1 trolley off and run people between the Resource Center and the Fairgrounds that day from 10 to 3 on a half-an-hour loop. So we're excited about partnering and doing that. The town hall, our first quarter town hall is scheduled for Thursday, March 6th at 6 p.m. And the focus of that will be a strategic goal update. The State of the Cities event has been scheduled for Thursday, March 20th at 8:30 a.m. And that would be at the Independence Conference Center or Convention Center, which is in the basement of their city hall. Our Monmouth Power and Light Director, Wade Carey, has been elected president of the Oregon Municipal Electric Utilities Association. So we're excited about that. Yeah. He is Yeah, he is also the focus of January's Monmouth Monthly podcast, and I listened to it on the way to work today. So if you get a chance, it's pretty interesting. I learned it was very enlightening. Bum, ba-dum, bum. The Monmouth Senior Center van will take its last trip this Thursday at 4 p.m. Seniors will be going to Falls City to have dinner at the Boondocks, and we've invited some of the veterans from Falls City who will be using the van to get to medical appointments to come to that dinner. So that's their last event. The official transfer will happen at a later date, but that's being scheduled. And then the new senior center bus will be arriving in Monmouth on January 18th. Staff and a Wolfie are actually flying back to Tennessee to pick up the van and drive it back. And the city is actually saving $3,000 by having staff go back and get it and bring it back. So the Wolfie will be taking pictures across the country as it makes its way here. And then I wanted to let you know that I have been awarded a scholarship from the LOC to attend the National League of Cities conference, which is March 7th through 13th in Washington, D.C. As part of the LOC board, I will also be involved in the state day at the U.S. Capitol, so that's fun. And then the scholarship covers all of my expenses, travel and conference. So excited about that. And that's all I have.
Great. Lots of great news. That brings us to council comments and announcements of activities. Anybody? Councilor Belts and Councilor Lopez.
As most of you know, I'm on the Heritage Museum Society Board of Directors, and we have a great event coming up this Thursday, the 9th at 5:30. We're having our 3rd annual youth art show. This is art that has been brought in from kids within the region, and it's on display at the museum through February the 8th. But again, this Thursday is the reception at 5:30. Also, this year's exhibit, Rights and Responsibilities in History, which is a collaboration between the Heritage Museum, Central High School, and the youth of our community. So the artwork draws inspiration from the 2025 National History Days contest theme, encouraging young artists to explore thought-provoking questions about history, rights, and responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two very separate things to report on and share tonight. The first is I'd like to share a little bit of my own commentary on something that happened over the weekend in a neighboring community. In our neighbors to the north and west of us in Dallas, there was an event that occurred, likely hate-related incident with an individual who drove their truck into the center market there in Dallas. And you know, through my work and through other endeavors that I'm engaged in, have some ties to that community. And I know that all of our communities are tied very close together. I recognize that this is a time where there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. There can be events that occur that prompt fear. I've had some neighbors, some staff reach out to me with similar concerns. And I'm proud of the work that our communities have done. I'm proud of the resilience of the Dallas community, the outpouring of support for those business owners, for that family, for their staff. Very fortunately, no one was injured in the event, although they very easily could have. I'm proud to be part of Monmouth with our inclusivity resolution and our stance on how we treat our neighbors, our neighborhoods, our business owners, and our communities with mutual respect. So just want to thank you all and thank all of you for the wonderful work that you do to knit together the fabric that ties us all together as a community. Moving on from that, I have an opportunity I'd like to share. This is a training. It is the Oregon CALM. CALM is an acronym for Counseling on Access to Lethal Means. This is a suicide prevention training. It is open to the public and it is free. It'll occur here at City Hall on January 27th from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. This is a training that I brought to some of my staff through my work. I work with a lot of individuals who are at higher risk of suicide, and it's been incredibly beneficial for my staff. This is a protocol that was put together by a consulting agency, the Insight Agency for Change, in partnership with Oregon Health Authority. It's part of the state of Oregon's Big River programs of mental health training. And this is a brand new training that's designed for community members. Most of these trainings are designed for professionals working in related fields. This is free, and I invite each and every one of you to come and learn about how we can all help family, friends, and community members have life-saving conversations with individuals who may be thinking of suicide or in times of crisis. So please, you can find information if you Google Insight Agency for Change, CALM. You can find information there. Yeah, thank you.
Counselor Oberst and Counselor Carey.
So last meeting, I made a comment saying farewell to Counselor Salinas Oliveros after her 4 years. Welcome, Counselor Ridgway. Hang on to your hat. It's an exciting ride for the next 4 years. So glad to have you on board. And it is noteworthy that in your very first meeting, you raised your hand and made a comment, because not everybody has the nerve to do that in their first go. So I see great things going forward. Thanks very much for agreeing to serve, and we'll enjoy this next 4 years. Thanks.
I would like to second that motion. Oh, it wasn't a motion. Oh.
I'd like to move welcome to Jason Ridgway.
Thank you. This is, it's a great experience, and I'm fortunate to have the opportunity. This is a well-established group, a lot of experience that's returning, and I'm going to have a lot of questions. So bear with me as I learn the process and try to figure out how to do this job the best I can. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, and to those in the audience, I'm sort of product testing this hearing assist that is available to all of you. Sometimes this can get a little bit echoey in here and difficult to hear, especially, my hearing is fading some. Yours, I'm sure, isn't, but the echo can be helped by this. This picks up the microphones, and Sabre is kind of the lead behind this, and I found it very helpful. And should you have that same sort of fuzziness in hearing that I often do, I'd really recommend that you talk with her, and we'll get you set up, and you'll be able to participate in the meeting much more effectively, I believe. The second comment I have, and this is kind of, it's just been riding with me for a while now, and I've mentioned it before, and I hope we can address this a little bit in our goal setting and refining our goals. And that it has to do with distressed properties that we have. Housing is a problem. Affordable housing is a challenge for our community. And so to see houses that with a little bit of, very likely, with a little bit of improvement and boost by the city, perhaps, could be productive units. There are 4 properties within, about a 5-iron from my house. And I hit a 5-iron about 160 yards. All right, so there are 4 that are in that could be rehabilitated slightly and back onto the housing market. And some of this is neglect on the part of the owners, others is lack of resources. But I'm compiling a list, And so I would invite counselors and anyone else, if you have a distressed property, I'm not going to do anything with it other than compile it at the moment, because I think we'll all decide what the best approach will be. But to have a listing of that, shoot it to me, I'll put it on my spreadsheet, and when we get into a solution-based discussion, we'll do that. It's a problem in the community. Not only does it take housing off the inventory, a lot of them look like hell. And it won't be long, and we have people that are taking up occupancy that are sometimes hard to get them out. And the property continues to go downhill. So anyway, it's sort of a soapbox issue for me. But if we can find a solution, and I believe we will, it will be a lot better, and we'll be 4 houses at least back on the market where people can live at an affordable price.
Counselor Oberst and Counselor McKee.
I just need to tag on to the end of John's comment about the hearing loop, and that is some hearing aids, mine I'm not sure about yet, are also able to pick up this hearing loop. So if you have a T-coil in your hearing aid, and you can get that turned on, and nowadays it's all done through the computer at the audiologist. The things they can turn on and off in these things is amazing. And so that's where I need to go and find out, can I get that switched on? Because I have problems with the echoes in here. Particularly when we've got people online participating and the volume level is really high coming in from the online participants, and it just blasts this room out. So I think that, I'm looking forward to finding out if I can take advantage. If not, I may be wearing headphones. We'll see.
So, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to read the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that Indigenous tribes and bands have been on the lands here and throughout Oregon since time immemorial. It is not lost on us that the Willamette Treaty forcibly removed these people from their homelands in 1855 to 1856, the year that the city of Monmouth was founded. We recognize the pre-existing and continued sovereignty of the federally recognized tribes that are a vibrant part of this region today. The Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians, and thank them for sharing their perspective on how we might care for one another and the land, so it can care for us. We commit to engaging in a respectful and successful partnership as stewards of these lands.
And Counselor Ridgway, would you like to make your first motion this evening? This would be an opportunity to request adjournment.
May I make one
comment
prior?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. So as we swear in a new group of city councilors today, I wanted to take a moment to just acknowledge the sacrifice that many of our families have made to give us the opportunity to be here, time away from family. I want to recognize a beautiful young lady in the audience. She doesn't often attend and likely won't attend most of the time, but Kelly Ridgway, very much appreciate your willingness to let me serve. And for those families that are home from the council, appreciate all of their sacrifice and support of us being able to be here. With that, I motion to adjourn.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned.